Good morning everyone. Tara basa tayo nating libro guys. Sariling nating history book. Kapwa ka Pilipino, magbasa na tayo. Today's History of the Filipino People by Agoncillo and Guerrero. Today is 25 March 2023. History of the Filipino People Part 6, The Third Republic. Topic number 28, External Affairs. Nandito tayo sa paragraph Problems of Fil-American Relations. Problems of Fil-American Relations. Nagmamadali lang guys, may lakad pa. In spite of the highly touted identity of Filipino-American interest and the close friendship that has characterized their experiment in democratic partnership, several irritants have cropped up to make the honeymoon seem sore. In the first place, the so-called identity of Filipino-American interest is more sentimental and recall than real and substantial. No two independent nations ever had or could have identical national interest, owing to geographic, economic, and ideological factors. In the second place, there are actuations of the American government and personnel which do not conform to the Filipino idea of friendship. Lastly, the Filipinos, are the more intelligent and vocal among them, have come to realize that American intentions in the Philippines have not been exactly altruistic and benevolent. When the Philippines achieved independence in 1946, President Rojas lost no time in enunciating his policy of following in the wake of America in the mistaken belief that what is good for America is or must necessarily be good for the Philippines. Consequently, every American imposition was accepted blithely in the belief that what America does in the Philippines and elsewhere is done for the good of the Filipinos. In practically all international questions, the Philippines, through her delegate to the United Nations, has almost always voted with the United States until in 1959, Filipino ambassador to London, Leon Maria Guerrero Jr. cried bitterly that the U.S. delegation to the UN has been twisting at the arm of the Philippine delegation that is putting pressure on the latter in order to vote as one with the U.S. delegation on matters favorable to the United States, even if in some matters the reputation of the Philippines is adversely affected. Guerrero's declaration of independence seems to be the beginning of a revolt and the implementation of the Filipino First policy in the field of foreign relations. Some actuations of the American military in the Philippines have contributed to the tension in Filipino-American relations. The killing of Filipinos by Filipino or American security guards in the employ of the American Armed Forces in Clarkfield, Pampanga, and the refusal of the American military to hand over the killers to the Philippine courts for trial have become a major irritant. The Philippine position on the matter is based on the Military Bases Agreement of 1947, in which offenses committed by Filipinos against Filipinos within the American bases are to be tried by Philippine courts. The American military contend that any investigation into reported killings inside the bases requires consultation with higher authorities of the American Department of Defense. The conflict of jurisdiction has increased the tension. In 1953, President Guerrero and President Eisenhower. In 1953, President Guerrero and President In 1953, President Guerrero and President Eisenhower communicated with each other on the importance of expanding and developing certain U.S. military bases in the Philippines, as well as outstanding property and related questions. Nothing resulted from this exchange of letters owing to bloody incidents in which alleged Filipino pilferers were shot down like dogs inside American bases. The House of Representatives in February 1956 took steps to re-examine Philippine-American relations. This move was inspired by the detention of Enrique Santa Maria, a Filipino mining operator, by the Clarkfield authorities for mining in Buena Hill, Capas, Tarlac, which was within the American reservation. To resolve the basis questions, particularly the question of jurisdiction, both countries appointed their respective panels to meet in Manila. The Philippine panel, chairman by Vice President Carlos B. Garcia, met with the American panel headed by Carl Benditsen from August 11, 1956. To December 5, 1956, the Philippine position regarding the basis question was provided by Senator Claro M. Recto when on February 1, 1954, he refuted Attorney General Herbert Brownell's contention that the United States owned the land on which the American bases were located. Recto contended that the United States merely acquired the right to use such land. 2 years later, in July 1956, the American government declared that the United States recognizes the sovereignty of the Philippine government over the base lands. This was repeated by Vice President Richard Nixon when he visited the Philippines the same year. Thus, Recto was justified in his contention. The Garcia-Pindicin conferences concerning the question of jurisdiction in the American bases in the Philippines ended in December 1956 without having arrived at a reasonable solution. Meanwhile, more Filipinos have been fired upon and killed within the American base of Clark Field. In some instances, the guilty party, if an American, was sent to the United States on the ground that he had finished his tour of duty in the Philippines. Rightly or wrongly, the Filipinos believe that such a technique is only a smokescreen to cover up the accused American. When on top of this, an American lawmaker, Phil Whipper, accused the Filipino pilferers of harassing the Americans within the Clarkfield base. The Filipinos individually and collectively could not help thinking that the ugly Americans are the cause of the Filipino-American tension. The irritant became exceedingly irritating for the Filipinos. Ang haba pala nito. When in 1964, a Filipino boy in Clarkfield was shot in the back by an American sentry. This was followed shortly by the killing of a Filipino fisherman by American sentries at the Olongapo Naval Base. The Naval Base. University students and laborers held vocal but peaceful demonstration before the American Embassy in Manila and denounced what they believed was the unnecessary and unjustified killing of unarmed Filipinos. The American Embassy, in its attempt to explain away the murder of the Filipino boy, issued a statement saying that certain Filipinos tried to bomb. Wait, guys. Sorry. Okay. Dito na tayo. University students and laborers held vocal but peaceful demonstration before. Okay. This was followed shortly by the killing of a Filipino fisherman by American sentries at the Olongapo Naval Base. University students and laborers held vocal but peaceful demonstration before the American Embassy in Manila and denounced what they believed was the unnecessary and unjustified killing of unarmed Filipinos. The American Embassy, in its attempt to explain away the murder of the Filipino boy, issued a statement saying that certain Filipinos tried to bomb the American school at Clarkfield. A bomb was shown to the press, but subsequent investigation showed that the bomb was a harmless one and could not have exploded. Thinking Filipinos felt that the bomb was planted to make it up for the Filipinos who came near, therefore threw the bomb at the American school. The excuse was palpably lame, and the Filipino students, laborers, and some intellectuals held a mammoth demonstration before the American Embassy on January 25, 1965, and denounced American actuations in the Philippines. The Americans, seconded by their Filipino stooges, immediately branded the demonstration as communistic, but this smear tactic had the effect of fanning anti-American feeling. The killing of unarmed Filipinos by armed American soldiers inside or outside American military and naval bases in the Philippines continued. In 1968, a Filipino was shot to death by an American sentry in Cavite. The following year, another trigger-happy American soldier who was off duty and in violation of U.S. military rules went hunting with his service pistol in broad daylight shot to death a Filipino employee of the military base. When confronted with the murder, the American soldier said he mistook the Filipino for a wild boar. The American military court hastily tried the offender and acquitted him. A few days later, he was reported to have left for the United States. The furor that this particular incident provoked among the Filipino students, workers, and intellectuals led to demands for the negotiations renegotiation of the Basis Treaty of 1947. The results of this renegotiation will determine the contour of Filipino-American relations in the years to come. There are other irritants to Filipino-American relations, not the least of which is the Filipino belief that the United States has not been giving the Philippines adequate financial aid, considering American aid to Japan, a former common enemy which has been the recipient of American benevolence. Another irritant, United States to satisfy Filipino claims for payment among where are the $500 million in salaries due the Philippine Army men and guerrilla units for wartime service, the $100 million in back pay to Filipinos who serve with the American Regular Army, the $21.5 million for supplies and services rendered in 1941. Konti na lang guys. Malapit ko na matapos yung topic na to. $21.5 million for supplies and services rendered in 1941 by the Philippine government to the U.S. Armed Forces, and the $5.5 million spent by the Philippine government in processing Philippine claims against the United States government. Most of these claims, known as the Omnibus Claims, have been rejected by the American government. That's it guys. Bye everyone. God bless.